BodyThredz The Podcast. Find your power.
Hey guys, how are you today? I'm so happy to be here today. Russ, man, are you happy to be here? What an introduction. Did you hear that freaking music, man? How could you not be ready to go after hearing Ron Keel, give me guitars or give me death? I mean, I'm ready. Are you ready?
Listen, I'm ready. I had a great time producing that intro, but it would not sound near as good without the help of your buddy, Ron.
Just amazing. So, Ron Keel, thank you. I am Joe Cohn. I am very excited. This is my number one show. This is the first show we've ever done for BodyThredz. BodyThredz The Podcast. And man, I couldn't have started with a better guest, at least in my opinion. It took a lot to get him on here, and I'm so excited. I've been telling everybody they can't believe it happened, but it's here. It's time. It's ready to go. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to the man, the myth, the legend, the owner, the founder of BodyThredz, Joseph Cohn. How are you, my man? How are you? And tell us a little bit about how you got involved in BodyThredz. We were talking off air before this show started, and you were telling me that you were a pretty successful real estate attorney for the last 25 years. So tell me, how did you go from being a real estate attorney to selling your practice and deciding, I'm going to sell t-shirts? Man, Joe, thank you. What an introduction. Wow, you've humbled me. That is an amazing introduction, and thank you. I didn't realize when I got the call that I was going to be on the number one podcast of the internet. Joseph, let me interrupt a little bit. I didn't mean we were the number one podcast in the world. I just meant that this is the actual first podcast, my number one podcast. But, you know, maybe one day we'll be number one in the world. But for now, I don't want to mislead the audience. We are not the number one podcast in the world. Oh, I see. Well, that's good to know. Takes the spirit a little bit down a little bit, but I guess I'm still here, so I will finish the interview like a professional. Maybe I should have gone with Joe Rogan or Ed Milet, because those clearly are the number one podcast in the world. But with that said, let me answer your question. How did I get into the t-shirt game? That's a great question, Joe, so I'm glad you gave it to me. You know, after I sold my practice, I was doing a few things, and I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to just retire into the night and go away and go to my happy place, wherever that is. And so what happened was I was watching all these kids running around with their Metallica shirts and their Judas Priest shirts. And I was like, wait a minute, I listened to all these bands when I was growing up. Maybe I can start my own sort of sports apparel company, because I had all these great concert shirts in my closet, but number one, they don't fit anymore because, you know, it was 25, 30, 40 years ago for some of these shows. And I thought, what would be a great idea to maybe get some workout shirts with my favorite bands on there. So I decided, hey, let me do that. So we started BodyThredz with the dream of me calling up some of these bands that I loved and trying to make a license agreement with them, because obviously we're not going to sell this without their permission. By the way, that happens all the time on the internet. I have a few shirts. They're crap. And that was another reason I wanted to do this, because I obviously wanted to protect the bands. I grew up listening to all these bands, and we want to protect their bands. We want to protect everything about them, because we are fans first, and then we are businessmen later, business women and businessmen. So we want to endure the whole thing with these bands. So that's what I did. So what I did was I made some calls. I got BodyThredz going and sent out these emails, and lo and behold, all of a sudden I'm sitting there 6 months later, and I said to myself, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Why are you starting a t-shirt company? There are 10,000 t-shirt companies out there. And by that time, it was a little too late. I'm 6 months into it. And I looked up to the universe. I just sent off an email to legendary Ron Keel, the Ron Keel band, Steeler. I mean, everybody who knows this music knows he's a rock star. And I sent out an email, And usually I don't get a response that quickly. And sometimes I don't even get a phone call. And I'm sitting there, true story, I'm at my local coffee company and I say, praying to the universe, praying to the gods, praying to the metal gods, whatever it was. And I said, show me a sign that I'm doing the right thing here, because maybe I should have kept my law practice. And no joke, about a minute later, my phone rings and I pick it up and I see Ron Keel. Now, Ron Keel, I've never met him before. I had never talked to him before. So he's not plugged in my phone. So it was a little weird to see. So I'm getting a little nervous because he's the metal cowboy and I've seen him live. It's been 40 years since I've seen him live, but I've seen him live. So again, I'm a fan first. So the phone rings, I pick it up and I say, hey, this is Joe Cohn. He goes, hey man, this is Ron Keel. And Ron Keel talks fast. He talks faster than I do. So he's talking, he's telling me things, and I have to sort of cut him off because I'm a little shocked that I'm talking to him. So I say off the cuff, I'm like, hey, is this Ron Keel or is this Ron Keel's manager? And he comes back, oh man, you got Ron Keel. And we had a nice conversation, 20, 25 minutes. He loved the idea. And that's why the introduction is so cool, because it's Give Me Guitar, Give Me Deaths by Ron Keel. So it was immediate. He loved the idea, like I said. And within a month, we went through our negotiations and he was the first to sign with BodyThredz with his Keel, his Ron Keel, his Keel World, his Steeler, which is just unbelievable. The new album. It's just, I was so impressed and so happy to get him on board. So that was our first sign. Hey, Joe, that makes me feel great because I too am a fan of Ron Keel. And that's awesome that he was your first sign. It's so special to hear that story. I can't imagine how much fun it was to be able to talk to Ron. So great story, great introduction to how you got from zero to sign. And pretty quickly, 6 months was pretty impressive. So congratulations on that. So the next question I have is, what is your favorite memory of because you listen to all these bands that you've signed up, right? You've signed up, obviously, Ron Keel, you've signed up Pat Travers, you've signed up Accept from Germany. What an amazing band. You've signed up Oz, you've signed up Carmine Appice. I mean, the list is going on, and you keep signing more bands. So what's your favorite memory of the music that you listened to growing up? Man, Joe, you ask questions like you're in my head. I mean, what a great question that is. I think my favorite memory was, and it's interesting because I still talk to these same 4 guys. I'm texting them back and forth while we get a new sign, and they're my biggest fans right now because they listen to the music. So we would view these bands as sort of our own bands. We were in their community, but they're our bands, and we discovered them. We couldn't wait to go listen to them. And some of my favorite memories is we would take our, bus boy money and we would get our change and we would drive down. I'm from South Florida. So we would drive down to the record store in Hollywood, Record Haven. If you're from down here, Big Lou was out there, and he would come out when you first rang that bell to get in that door, and he would bring you right to this thing where all that new albums were. And he would say, oh, you might want to try this one. You might want to try this one. And so we would do that. And some of the stuff we would do is we would literally look at the album. We got to see if it's a cool album cover, of course, like you can see the ones behind me. Like, how could you not lay down the law from Ron Keel? Come on. That's sick. That's beautiful. There's no way, a young kid ain't buying that album just for the cover itself. And then we would flip that cover over and we would look at who produced it. When we first saw the band Dokken, we didn't know who Dokken was. Nobody who knew who they were. Because the metal and all that, you couldn't just download anything from the music store. You had to go physically get in your car, go down to a record store and look at that album. And you didn't have that much money, right? You couldn't just spend $15 on an album. It better be a damn good album. So we immediately look at the back of the album and we'd say, and for Dokken, we saw Michael Wagner was the producer. And we're like, wait a minute, Michael Wagner also produced Accept. This band must be worth listening to. And they certainly were. So those are the cherished moments I have with all my buddies growing up. And like I said, they still text me today and we still talk about this music. And that's what makes this music the best music of all time, because it's a community and it just never ends. It's a community that lasts forever. And that's what I'm trying to do with BodyThredz. That's why these shirts, not the one I'm wearing, because we don't have the title ones on me today, because I'm just promoting my little BodyThredz today, but we have Accept. We have all these other bands, and they're on BodyThredz, so you can feel like you're part of not only BodyThredz community, but the band's community. Damn, Joseph, that's a good story. And again, I kind of went through those same things when I was growing up. So it's like we are in the same brain again. This is a great interview. This is an interview for the ages. Like, we're just thinking alike. But going back to you said you're a busboy, and that leads me to my next question, because I always want to know what people do on their first jobs, because I think that builds character. I think it's an interesting thing to know about how people got from A to B to Z and all the way to where you are today. So what was your first job, and did that have any impact on you where you wanted to start your own business? Because like I said in the introduction, you were a real estate attorney, you owned your own practice for 25 years. You were very successful. And so what drove you to open your own business? And then here you are again with BodyThredz, and you're doing the same thing. So what in you makes you want to own your own business? Yeah, great question. And I guess the simple answer is, I just don't play well with others. And that's really the truth. So when I was getting jobs at a very young age, I mean, my first job, like everybody else growing up in my era, cutting people's lawns, paper boy. I mean, even when I went on vacation up north to visit my family, I would literally get a paper job so I could have little monies to do stuff. So I always wanted to have my own money. I always wanted to work for myself. And it does sort of lend it to, and I'm not all kidding around, that I just don't play well with others. I want to make sure I have control of my own destiny. And I think anybody who opens their own business has that same drive. So, that's where I was at, and that's where my head was at when I opened my law practice. And when I sold it, I had to say, all right, what do I want to do next? And I didn't think this would be next, but it's a great next so far. I'm having a blast. And again, when I used to get interviews for jobs, and I could even tell back then that it wasn't going to end well. One of my first interviews was with a sunglass company. I won't mention the name. There's only one, so you could probably get the hint. And I don't know, I was like 15 years old. I don't remember. And this is a true story. We're sitting in the interview, and the gentleman interviewing me asked me, do you have any experience? And I said, yeah, I wear sunglasses all the time. So I didn't get the job. So I guess I learned back then, I'm too much of a smart ass maybe to work with others. So I did have some, real jobs along the way. I did work with other people, and I think they liked me. But when I started my practice, it was 0 to 100 in my own firm, and I'm glad I did what I did. I'm glad I sold it, and now I'm glad to be a part of BodyThredz. So that's where that is, Joe. That's awesome. Yeah, very cool. I can relate to that, if you can believe it or not. Russ, you have any jobs like that? How's your job outlook?
It's funny you say. My worst experience, I grew up in Miami, and there was this place that was kind of like Chuck E. Cheese. And it was called Riverboat Playhouse, Mark Twain's Riverboat Playhouse. They had the stage with the scary animatronics and everything. And I was working in the back making pizza, and I was ready to. It was time for my break. It was time for a lunch break, and I said there were two bosses, and they were both just absolute a-holes. And I said, all right, I'm going to go take my lunch right now, and the guy turns to me and he goes, are you asking me or telling me? And I thought he was testing me on like grammar. And it's like, well, that was, I did tell him. So, I'm telling you. And he lost his mind and got pissed. And he's like, the next time you're going to tell me that you're taking a lunch break, you're out of here. You're fired. It was awful. And I realized I never wanted to work in food industry again.
So you thought it was like a may I or can I back?
Yeah, I thought he was like basically like, oh, did you form that? Was that formed in a question or a statement? And I was like, oh, I know the answer to that. I was telling you. So never again.
Now all you do is text your teacher to go to the bathroom, and then they probably digitize you a hall pass, and you're gone.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, that's awesome. So getting back to you, Joe Stump, BodyThredz is a pretty new company, and you have a good amount of bands already, which I'm pretty impressed about. When did you officially start BodyThredz, and what are the challenges and successes if you have faced so far in your short time with BodyThredz? Yeah, that's, Joe, you're right. We started BodyThredz less than a year ago. And again, some people thought kind of a crazy idea. How are you going to get these bands? They probably already have deals. They already do this. And that's great. That's with any business. When in reality, you're always going to have naysayers, and you're always going to have people who say you can't do it and you can't do this. And that's part of the challenge of owning any business, whether it's BodyThredz, whether it's my law office, whether it's doesn't matter what you do. If you want to start your own business, that's the biggest challenge for me. Really quieting the noise from the backgrounds of people who, maybe they're mad they didn't start their own business. I have no idea, but I only hang around with people who want to tell me, yes, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And I think if anybody's doing anything on their own as far as business, that's the people you want to surround yourself. It's not to say you can't be criticized. My businesses are criticized a lot, and you can't always take that as a hater, right? You got to make sure that you have the ability to take in some criticism to say, hey, maybe this idea that you thought was freaking wonderful isn't that great of an idea, and that's okay. That was, again, part of the challenge of owning any business is I'm going to have failures. My son asks me all the time, what's your biggest failure? Does it upset you when you fail? And I say, you know what? My failures are what leads me to figure out how to do something that is right. So if I go down the road and this part fails, then I know, all right, well, it didn't work. So now I'm still trying to get to my end goal. So I know I just got to do something else. So those challenges are, to me, almost as good as a success, because they will become a success for me. Does that make sense, Joe? Yeah, that actually makes sense. And again, I think between me asking the most perfect questions that could be asked, this is a great podcast, Russ. I mean, this is a nice podcast for my first podcast. I'm not going to lie.
I'm having fun on this one. It's some of the podcasts are a little boring for some of the clients that I have, but the BodyThredz podcast, this one's a fun one. I like it.
And this is just the beginning. I mean,
yeah.
Can you imagine when we get a different guest who doesn't look and sound just like me? It's going to be freaking amazing.
And you don't have to bring this mug on.
No, you're staying, man. I like this is a whole new thing, man. You might have a career in broadcast.
I should look into it.
Exactly. Man, this is fun. Let's see, Joe Self. I want to make sure I got your name right, because this would be embarrassing if I messed up your name. And this is going to be a tough question, because I know you, and I know you're a big fan of a lot of different bands, and we're already impressed with the partners that you already have. But sitting here right now, and I won't make it seem like it has to be something in the future, but if in the next week, is there a band that is currently not partnered up with BodyThredz that you said to yourself, I got to have them right now? Oh man, that you hit the nail on the head. That is a very tough question. Number one, I'm fan of a lot. I mean, I'm looking at all my cassettes right here. I mean, there's Great White, there's Riot, there's the Scorpions, there's Rough Cut, there's Exciter, there's Q5, there's Slayer, there's Hellstar, there's Man of War, there's Kick Axe, who I think we're going to be signing soon. There's so many great bands. They got The Wall behind me. There were so many great bands. But if I had to choose a band right now, and I'm going to take the bigger bands out of it. I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way or an insulting way, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Obviously, Black Sabbath is not knocking down my door right now to sign up with BodyThredz. Doesn't mean we're never going to get them, right? I don't think that way. But right now, and they're going on tour, and they're from Florida, and they are one of my favorite bands, I would have to say Sabotage. I mean, I know you guys out there have heard of them, because if you're listening to this, you've heard of all these bands. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing them on tour this year. They're going to Europe, and I'm very much looking forward to signing them up one day for BodyThredz. Yeah, Joseph, I'm telling you, that would be a great get. That's a fun band. That's an exciting band. They've been around forever, and I'm not gonna lie to you, that's one of my favorite bands too. So I know that's part of your 2025 goals for BodyThredz. What else are you looking forward to most in your 2025 for BodyThredz? Yeah, 2024 was a great year. It was a fun year. We did a lot of the goals that we wanted to, but I'm definitely looking forward to what can be for BodyThredz in 2025. Like I said, with the announcements of the bands that we've signed, including, the medalist band around in Germany and the United States and all of Europe, it's just, who knows what's going to happen. I think the idea of trying to limit myself of any band or any product that we want to do for BodyThredz is sort of short-sighted. So I'm really just kind of one of the things that is a bonus to me is I'm not a t-shirt guy. I'm not a sports apparel guy. So I'm not going to be limited to what anybody else tells me what I should do. So in reality, 2025 is just going to be about getting it out there even more and just doing what I feel is the best ideas for our product BodyThredz, and also listen to the consumers and what they want to wear and what they want to see. And I'm just very excited for the year. I'm excited to see the bands that I've signed. We've seen almost every band that we've seen, that we've signed, we've seen in concert this year. And it's great. I'll tell you a cool story. And I know this is not a part about 2025, but it could be. So about 40 years ago, almost to the month, I saw a concert where Ron Keel opened up. Helix was the next band, and the headliners were Accept. And it was one of the most amazing shows I've ever seen. All three of these bands had, I think, sold one of their top albums of all time during that tour. So to have them all three together was amazing. What a show. And ironically, when I signed up these bands, and I signed all three of them up this year, I partnered with them, I should say. I view these bands as my partner. And if you go to the webpage, BodyThredz.com, you can see we're not a merch company. You can see where we have a launching pad for our bands, right? We have the biography. We want to make sure that the bands are the most important part, the musicians, the artists. And that's why, again, we license these bands. A lot of these places don't license. We take that very, very important. It's a very important thing for us to know that we are licensing these bands and we're not taking from them. We're actually promoting them still today. But back to that story, that Helix, the Ron Keel Helix and Accept tour, I literally signed them, partnered with them in that same order. We first partnered up with Ron Keel, like I told you about. And then I met with Brian Vollmer, the lead singer for Helix, and we partnered up with Helix. And then I met with Wolf Hoffman. I saw him up in Connecticut. What an amazing show with KK's Priest. And then, I'm so blessed that he decided to partner up with Accept as well. So nothing but great things on the horizon in 2025 and beyond for BodyThredz. Joseph, that is an incredible journey so far with BodyThredz. And I can tell by your passion for your company and for the bands and the musicians and the artists, and that you're going to get exactly what you're looking for in 2025. And we're all excited as fans to see the next band, next partner that you're going to be with, so I can put those shirts on my chest. Can't wait. Now I have a tough question for you. I think I've had a lot of tough questions for you. I'm no easy interviewer, right, Russ? I'm not easy on this guy, right? I'm not just letting him off the hook with anything.
No,
right?
I'm surprised he's coming back as quick and he's still in the studio.
Yeah, because you could, just the onlookers could view this as maybe I would be biased for some reason, but I don't see it. I don't see it at all.
I don't know. One thing I do see, it's like you would think you guys are related. It's mind-boggling.
It's odd. Yeah, it's a little weird. I mean, thank God for this jacket, or you wouldn't know the difference between us. So, last question I have for you, Joseph, and I'm being serious. This is a tough question. I don't know how I would answer it, so I'm really curious to see how you're going to answer it. Who is your favorite band and why? Joe, are you kidding me? Come on, Joe, man. How can you ask me a question like that? You know that I'm trying to get as many partners as I can. And obviously, the right answer might be all the bands I've already partnered with. And I love those guys, and they are definitely my favorites. But I think in general, if you're going to ask the question in this music genre, whether you call it hard rock, hair band, heavy metal, hard metal, I don't care what you call it. The correct answer is Black Sabbath. And there's a lot of reasons why, but my favorite reason why, the reason I think Black Sabbath is one of the best bands of all time is really obviously all the great lead singers, but Tony Iommi is the reason it's my favorite band. I'm a huge guitar guy. I love guitars. Never got to play a guitar because I was never good at it, but I love guitars. And what makes his sound so cool, and you can go back and listen to all the albums, and what makes it so cool is whether it was Ozzy Osbourne, Ronnie James Dio, Tony Martin, Ian Gillan, Ray Gillan, it didn't matter who the vocal, Glenn Hughes, it didn't matter who the lead singer was, Tony was able to somehow magically make his music sort of encompass the best of that lead singer. And that's why, and forget about all the great albums. That's just an obvious thing. But I always thought that was a cool thing because there's a lot of bands who get new lead singers and they don't make that transition very well. There's a very few who can do that. And Tony Iommi with Black Sabbath was the freaking master at doing that. So I have to just give it up to him, give it up to Black Sabbath. And I don't think anybody can argue much with me on this one. I've been argued a lot with, but this one can't be. Come on, this has got to be the answer. Yeah, I guess I can't argue with that because if I did argue with that, we would now look a little silly because we would just be muttering down the street looking like a couple of bipolar people as opposed to a really good interview. So I'm going to agree with you on the Black Sabbath thing. Man, Joseph, it was a pleasure meeting you. And I am really looking forward to seeing all the new partners you have with BodyThredz. Look forward to all the stories you have. And you know what? Promise me that you'll come back on our show. I'm very happy to have you on our first show. And promise the fans you'll come back when we ask you next time. Yeah, we probably shouldn't argue. That would be weird. So, look, it's been a pleasure being on your first show. I'm honored. I'm humbled. I'm privileged. But I would say if you want real success on this podcast, you better get some rock stars.
Find your power.